Look at that. That's pretty cool. I mean, over there. Look at that. That's pretty cool, huh, Cat? Yeah, we should go take a picture of that together in a second. Oh, hey everyone. Welcome to the stream. I was just hanging out here and taking some photos together with Cat. And I didn't see all of you come in, but welcome. We'll get started with the live stream in just a few minutes. Let's see who's here so far in the chat. Oh, I see some members already. Joe Turner. Deirdre. I can't pronounce your name. I apologize. I'm doing my best. As well as Jordy. Hello. If you see someone in green, that means they're a channel member and they support me every month. So that's why their names are a different color on here. And Hanmi. 안녕하세요. Hello. Yes. And we have some people still coming in. I just started the stream, so usually takes a few minutes before everyone kind of realizes we're live and comes in. But we're going to be doing a Korean lesson today. Cat, you might want to sit this out. I can take care of this. And yeah, we'll hang out a little bit after my lesson. Don't worry, I'll put you right over here. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Feel free to send a message in your chat. Let me know how you're doing in the chat. Hey, Small. The one-handed emoji. Nice. Wake Entry says, this is going to be way over my head. It might, or it might not. So while you're waiting, we'll be starting the class right at 2 o'clock as usual. And during the wait, try to learn these. You have about 10 or 12 minutes to learn try to learn the prerequisites for today's lesson before we start. You want to make sure you're familiar with these two things 100% before you start today. You will not be able to even use the form we're learning today if you don't already know how to conjugate the plain form, and if you don't already know what this grammar form 보다 means. Now, when I say 보다, I do not mean the 보다 form as in to see. I also don't mean 보다 as in to try something, like 해 보다, like that. I don't mean that. This is a different grammar form, which is 보다. It's a particle, and it attaches directly after any sort of noun, and it means then or more than. So you can say, I have more than 3 apples, or that person is taller than that person. It's for making comparisons. So you want to make sure you're familiar with these 2 points. These are key for today's lesson. Even if you want to stick around and kind of just see what you get, if you don't know these, you're not going to be able to use the form today. So make sure you're comfortable with conjugating plain form as well as 보다. If you are, this grammar form should be right up your alley. It's an intermediate level grammar form. However, if you really want to understand the form, not just be able to conjugate it, not just understand it, but actually really like internalize what this form means and how to use it, then you also want to be familiar with quoting forms. The reason is this form we're going to be learning today is actually originally just a quoting form. And I'll break up the form today and you'll see how it is nothing special at all. It is just a regular, it's a regular piece of a Korean sentence. And you'll see how it works. If you're familiar with quoting forms, you will get that. If you're not familiar with quoting forms, you'll be like, Billy, what are you doing? I have no clue what you're talking about. But at least if you don't know this, you'll still at least be able to use it yourself. You just won't be able to really understand where it comes from. And that's what I like to do in these lives, is break down not just how to use a grammar form, because you can learn that from anywhere, but why it works that way. And sometimes there might be exceptions for a grammar form. So if you learn exactly where it came from, that can sometimes help in understanding why there are exceptions, like why this doesn't work and this works. Why do I have to use it? For example, some forms might not work in the past tense. Why do I have to do that? Why can't it work in the past tense? So I like to break things down so you can understand why they are the way that they are. And finally, this is a bonus. We're not going to be relearning these in this lesson because I've already done a full live stream all about 차라리 and 오히려, as well as the grammar form 느니. So like 하느니, 차라리, something like that. Like I would rather do something than do something. That's a whole different grammar form. And if you know this, it's a bonus. You don't have to know it for this form. But if you know this, then you'll know how this form we're learning today is very different from this form, because the forms are unrelated. Yeah, they have no relation to each other other than the word rather. But the word rather in English has a lot of different meanings, and this is a completely different one. So if you want to learn this, that's a bonus. I did a full live stream about it. I believe it was August 3rd, 2020. I think. Let me check if my memory is correct. Oh, no, it was August 2nd. So 8/2/2020. I had it written down in my paper. You can check that. The live stream's still up. You can also view the abridged version. That's just a bonus. I recommend knowing that so you can know how this form is different, because once you learn about this form, how it works, it is completely unrelated to this form. This form we're learning today does not mean I would rather do this than do that. That is not what this form means at all today. This is a different rather form, and you'll see how it works. Okay, let's see who else came in while I was talking. Oh, hey, Secretive. I just saw one of our moderators, Secretive. Everyone say hi to Secretive. Thank you for being here. Carrie. Hey, Carrie, and welcome. YouTube notified. Oh, I see someone just said YouTube notified them. Nice. Okay, so I see a few more people have come in. We now have 100 viewers today. So we have a few announcements before we start the lesson. You can check these out while we're waiting. The first of which is if you are a Patreon member, so everyone on Patreon from the $1 tier and up gets access to every single live stream outlined since the beginning of time and or 2018, whichever one's closer to today. And you can see all of the sentences I've done. You can see all of the explanations I've given. And yeah, there are these for every single live stream I've ever done for a lesson anyway. And you can get this as soon as the live stream's finished through Patreon. Also, there are worksheets for most of the live streams, at least since last year I've done them all. Maybe since 2019 I started them. Anyway, most of the live streams also have a worksheet where you can practice more sentences than we had time for during the lesson. When I do these lessons, I want to make sure that everyone understands the topic first and foremost. Then we do a bunch of example sentences, and I'll pick out example sentences that I feel highlight different uses of the grammar form. But while coming up with lots of sentences for each lesson, that leaves me with a large amount of sentences that don't get used that are still good. All of those sentences go into the weekly worksheet, and you can also download all of those from Patreon as well. Okay, another announcement is, let me just put this in here. Well, that's strange. Miraculously lazy. How come your name is in gray? I don't understand what's going on. Do you do a YouTube channel too? Or how did you get a check mark? Anyway, welcome. Yes, there is a Discord channel. That's the other announcement. There's a Discord channel. It's been open for a long time now, but there is still a Discord channel, and you can practice Korean. You can talk with other people who are learning, and it's just a fun, casual place to hang out and ask Korean questions or practice and stuff like that. So yeah, click the link to join, and it is open right now, and there are people chatting in it right now. Also, another announcement is what I always say every week. If you are a member of this channel, so everyone's name who pops up in green, you also get access to all of the abridged videos. So after I finish a live stream, I edit them into an abridged version. You get to watch those the very same day I do the live stream. So right after this live stream finishes, I go straight to my computer and I edit the video that we just filmed, this live stream I'm doing right now. I haven't done it yet. And I compress it down to about 10 or 15 minutes and upload that onto YouTube. And everyone else can watch that typically Wednesday or Thursday later in the week. If you're a member of my channel, you also get to watch that tonight. So check on my channel tonight, usually around 7 or 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and you'll be able to watch that tonight. Okay. Oh yeah. Oh, one more thing. So these are now officially released. Previously, I had announced that I was finishing them up. I was working on them, but now they're actually done. So you can find them. They're on my website. There's a link in the description where you can find all of my books, either gobillykorean.com or koreanmadesimple.com, either one. These are just workbooks. Again, these are optional. I'm not saying you need to buy these if you have Korean Made Simple. Korean Made Simple already comes with practice sections for every chapter. This is basically just more of the same stuff. It's just more of the practice. For example, the practice section might say, translate these sentences using the grammar form you learned in the chapter, and it'll give the grammar form. Or conjugate these verbs, according to the conjugation rules. Well, this will just have more. It'll be, hey, you actually learned a lot more verbs. So here are those ones too. Here are some more uses of this vocabulary word you've only seen used twice. So here are 3 more uses of it. Kind of like that, but it's pretty much more of the same. It's optional. Again, it is optional. You do not need these workbooks to use the textbooks. So it's just a lot of people have been bugging me for workbooks since I made the first one here a year or so ago. So now there are 2 and 3. So it's all done. So people can stop bugging me. They're ready now. And if you are a Patreon member, your name is actually in the back of here. And you already know that because let me find it. Where's the last? Yeah. The last page, it's actually barely everyone's name barely fit. I swear, I was at the very last line. I had 1 line, so I had room for 4 more people, and it would have been completely full. But yeah, if you were a Patreon member from last month, you already know about this. Your name is already in the book. Thank you for doing the survey, and it will be there forever and ever in both Workbook 2 and Workbook 3. Your names are there. Workbook 1 also has names, but that was from back when I published Workbook 1, so all the names are different. That was like, I don't know. Was that 2019? I think I put that out. I don't even remember when I put this one out. 2018. So this one's been out for a while. These ones just came out just a couple weeks ago. Okay, that's the last announcement I have. Let's put those away. Okay, actually, I'm gonna show them. I'll show them again at the end. So let me keep them out so I don't forget about that. Okay, that is all of our announcements for today. Just yeah, all of the workbooks are now released. So Korean Made Simple is now complete. I'll never say never, but I'm not going to make a 4th book. That's it. There are 3 books in the series. I'll do something. I'm going to do some other book in the future. Some other book. Other projects are coming up. Just wait for those. Okay. For now, though, Korean Made Simple is complete. Okay. Great. Let's see. Bonnie Rum. Oh, hey, Bonnie. Bonnie, you're the one who did some of that cool artwork. I have it on my server. The workbooks are so good. I really love working with them. 11 out of 10. 11 out of 10. Something's broken there. Would recommend. Hee hee. Cool. Books. I'm just going to read a few of your comments because we have 1 minute left before I start. Books Get Ball says, quick question. Is your name Go Billy because your last name is Go? No, Go. There actually is a Korean name. There is a Korean last name, Ko. It's not super common, but it's not too rare. I believe this last name is originally from Jeju. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I think this was one of the few last names that are natively from the island of Jeju. I am not Korean, so no, Go is not my real last name. I picked it because it sounds like let's go. But anyway, yeah. But there are people with the last name of Go, and you could have a nickname Piriri in Korea. I guess there could really be someone named Ko Piriri who lives in Korea if their parents named them an American name. I don't know. If there is some real Ko Piriri out there in Korean who is Korean, I mean, please contact me. I'll make a video with you. That would be pretty fun. You'll have to show your ID and prove it. Okay. Welcome everyone else. Everyone who's coming into the stream right now. These were the prerequisites. I am now erasing the prerequisites. Oh, that's right. I shouldn't use the, I forgot. I'm not supposed to use the neon white, the markers on this whiteboard because they don't erase very well. Okay, I've learned my lesson now. I'm not going to use them anymore. I normally use the neon ones when I do my Korean FAQ video. Let me get rid of these so I don't forget. So I don't accidentally use them again. Okay. So let's get started with the lesson today. We are going to be learning about something that is both high intermediate and low intermediate at the same time. How is that possible? Well, if you don't understand how this form works, it is high intermediate. If you do understand how this form works, it's very basic. So we're going to be learning the form 다기보다는. 다기보다는. It's very long, isn't it? It's very long and looks scary. It's 5 syllables. What are we going to do? Well, let me show you how this works. It's very simple to conjugate it anyway. You take a verb stem. I'll just write verb stem, vs, and you attach 다기보다는, and you're done. extremely simple just to conjugate. So on the surface, it seems basic. Now, let me show you an example of what that would look like. Let's take the verb 먹다, to eat. So the verb stem of 먹다 is just 먹. Now we attach 다기보다는. Actually, let me write this a little bit nicer. That's how I actually write it, but this is how I should write it. 먹다기보다는. That's wrong. Wait a minute. No, something's wrong. Something's wrong here. Because that's not really how you do it. It's true you're going to take the verb stem when you start, but what you actually want is something called the plain form. Now, the plain form is actually a requirement for today's lesson, so hopefully you've at least seen it before and you know how to conjugate it. But the plain form will typically be, if you have a verb stem, you'll attach a nian followed by ta. If it ends in a vowel, or if it ends in a consonant, you'll attach 는다, like that. I'm not going to be going over this though, because there's another rule you have to learn and there's some other exceptions. But this is the basic form. So let's start again. The way you make this form is you take the plain form. You take the plain form and then you attach, well, the plain form will already end with ta, so you don't need to attach ta again. So you take the plain form and you attach 기보다는. So let's take an example. Let's take 하다. Well, 하다, the plain form becomes 한다, and then we attach 기보다는. For the verb 먹다, to eat, well, that becomes 먹는다 기보다는. Okay, it's really long. You can see 먹는다 기보다는. There are no spaces here. Keep that in mind. There are no spaces ever when you use this form. But you will see all the time on the internets, Koreans, native Koreans, putting a space between this part and this part. You'll see them spaced a lot online. That is wrong. This is not spaced. Ever. I'm a stickler for spaces. Spacing, okay? I really care about spacing in Korea. 먹는다기보다는. So that's all there is to conjugating this form. So, what is this form then? I'm just kidding. Let's talk about what it is made of. Okay, before we even talk about what it means or how to use it, let me show you what it's made of. So, although the form is called 다기보다는, you can see it's actually really 기보다는, right? Because you don't attach ta after the plain form, it already has it in it. Okay, so what is this form? Well, this form is actually a quoting form plus 기, which is a nominalization form. You know, like if you take 하다, you get 하기, 먹다 becomes 먹기, like that. So doing, you know, the ing sort of verb, right? This is the nominalization form. Plus the regular grammar form, 보다, meaning more than, or just then. Plus 는. 는 is just the topic marker. So if we look at it like this, there's a lot of stuff that we can get out of this form now. So a quoting form, let me give you an example. Let's take 먹다 again. We can get 먹는다고 하다. So this 먹는다고 하다 is actually the same as 먹는다고 말하다, right? If this is going over your heads, it's because you've never learned any quoting forms before. Okay, if this is going over your head right now, you want to review quoting forms. I promise you this is not complicated, but if you're going from not knowing quoting forms to now having to understand quoting forms, I understand it could be a bit much. So just take a break. Take a break for a second. Let's take a break for just a second if this is going over your head already. Okay, I understand. You want to make sure you know quoting forms. So If you don't though, I'm going to try to briefly explain what this means. So we have the verb 말하다, right? 말하다 literally means 말, words, 하다, to do. So to do words. So this is to speak. So to say, to tell, to speak, like that. And this 고 is part of what's known as quoting. And this is specifically for when you're making a quote of something that somebody says. So someone says, 고. You can think of this 고 part of it as kind of like the quotation marks when you're making a quote. Like mom said, don't go. Dad says he likes cheese. You know, any sort of quote will end in the 고, followed by some verb that expresses what they did. Like, did they say it? 말하다. Did they yell it? 외치다. Right? Did they ask it? 물어보다. But that would be a different form. Anyway, any sort of quoting form will have this 고 in the form. So literally, to say someone is eating. 먹는다고 말하다. 먹는다고 하다. So someone says that they are eating. Okay. This form then is just a combination of this quoting form. Someone says someone is eating with key nominalization, which makes it kind of like ing. For example, 하다, 하기, doing, 먹다, 먹기, eating, 보다, 보기, seeing, like watching movies, 영화 보기, watching movies, like that. So ing plus 보다, more than, and then 는, which just sets it as a topic of the sentence. Okay, before I put all this together, is this okay so far? I haven't put it together yet, but are you doing okay? Please let me know in the chat how you're doing. Because I understand that to break down this form, it requires it requires an understanding already of many beginner level forms, but still many forms. Hanmi says, I'm good. We are good. Okay, we are good. That's all I needed. I just was waiting for Hanmi's approval. Let's continue. No, let's check here for a second. Make sure everyone else is doing okay too. Mera Mimi says, this is the longest form I've learned. Yeah, I understand. Because it requires you to know several beginner level forms all at once. And if you're missing any of those forms, it's not going to make much sense. Good, good. Okay. So let's put everything together then. And again, if you do not understand this form still, do not worry. It only means you haven't yet learned that piece yet. So I'm not going to fault you for not understanding it. If you say, oh, you lost me on the quoting part. Do you know quoting forms? No, I haven't learned them yet. That's why. Okay, don't beat yourself up over this. If you know these forms, you'll know this. If you don't know one of these forms, you miss the entire thing. That's why this form is at least intermediate. I would put it at like high intermediate just because it doesn't get used in like simple conversations. It'll get used in more fully intermediate conversations, in which case the learner is going to be at that higher level. But understanding it is quite beginner level because it is just a bunch of beginner level grammar put together. Okay, so someone says someone is eating. This is just for an example. We don't know what they're eating. Just someone says someone is eating. Key. So ing. So let's get that nominalized form of 하다, 하기. 먹는다고 하기. So what would be the nominalization form of 말하다? Say, tell, saying. Okay. Telling, talking. Okay, so let's just go with saying. Saying that someone is eating. Okay, saying that someone is eating. 보다, more than saying that someone is eating. Yes, this is exactly what the form means and how it's used. Saying, so more than saying that someone is eating, 는 just sets it aside as the topic of the sentence. So like, okay, here, I'm putting my foot down. This is what we're going to talk about. What we're going to talk about is more than just saying that someone is eating something, more than just saying someone is eating. That's the feeling that you get. Now, with the verb eat, it's not going to make sense very much. You're not going to understand why someone would say that with the verb 먹다. I just wanted to do it for a quick example so you can see how it's conjugated. But that's literally and practically what this form means. Now, This is actually, this form, 다기보다는, is actually a abbreviated version of this whole thing. What goes away? Oh, actually, it's this whole thing. Sorry, because there's also the ta here. You can think of this whole part going away. So you don't actually have to break it down like this. And in fact, they're not going to break it down like this, but it's the exact same meaning. If you were to say this whole thing instead of 먹는다기보다는, if you were to say 먹는다고 하기보다는 or 먹는다고 말하기보다는, it has the exact same meaning. It will sound a little bit strange because people don't stretch it out that way, but that's what it is. That's where it came from, and it still means that. It doesn't have a special meaning by being a shortened version of all of this junk here. So, 먹는다기보다는 is more than saying that someone eats something. Okay, that's it. That's what this form means. Now, because I've broken this down for you, because I've explained exactly what these parts are, why don't you tell me, can 다기보다는 be used with a verb in the past tense or the future tense? Tell me. Because these are some exceptions we're talking about, or I should say, these are things I should clarify when I'm talking about any grammar form, but you can tell me right now, can I take this quoting form and can I change it to another tense? Past tense, present tense, future tense, progressive tense. Is that okay? You tell me. Ayakata, oui, mais oui, bien sûr. Vous voudrez changer past tense, I don't know, past tense, le temps futur, something like that. I can't remember the word for future in French. It's probably like futur, something like that. You can. Yeah, I see a bunch of people. One person, here we go. Daliana's like, yeah? Yes, you can. Why not? Why can't you? Of course you can. We know it has the quoting form. Quoting form can use any tense. You can say, to say that someone ate, to say that someone is eating, to say that someone will eat. All of those are 돼요, 괜찮아요, 좋아요. All of those are good. You can do any of that. How about this? Can you use 다기보다는 with any type of verb, both action and descriptive verb? Can we use this with an action verb or a descriptive verb? Or both? Tell me. Le passé et la future. Ah, I see. Oh, oui, oui. C'est le passé et la future. I told you it's going to be like future or something like that. I knew it. Okay. Boragul. I have a comment. I see it's scrolling up. So it is rather than calling it. Yes. Don't get ahead of yourself, but you've got it. You've got it. Jordy Kroon. Very good question. Oh, and okay, so everyone else, first let me go back to what I was asking. Can you use this with action verbs and descriptive verbs? The answer is, of course you can, because it's just a quoting form. There's no restrictions on quoting forms. You can say, I said it is cold, descriptive verb. I said it was cold. It will be cold. It was not cold. It had not been cold. You can do any of that in English, right? You can do it all in Korean. You can do with action. Both action verbs and descriptive verbs are completely okay. Jordy asks a really good question. Well, how about this? If it's a combination of the quoting form, the nominalization form ki, and poda with nun, topic marker, can you remove the topic marker? And the answer is yes, you can remove the topic marker. I'll do one more. The topic marker can also change to become just a nian. So what are you left with? In not just poda는, you can also have poda, or you can have podan in speech. Now, this is only done in conversational Korean, so informal conversational Korean. You wouldn't write this in your test paper, but it's not rude. It's fine. You'll see poda는 shortened to podan or just poda. Totally fine. Because I'm telling you, that's all this form is a combination of these pieces. Okay. But because of that, there is an exception to this form. Uh-oh. Billy said it. There's an exception. But if you know how this form works, it's not an exception at all. But there is an exception you'll come across. If you look at lessons of this form, they'll say, wait! If you use this with the verb ida, there's a special version of this form you have to memorize. Can anyone tell me what this form would be? If I'm using this with not the verb 먹다, but the verb ida, to be, what would that become? ida. I'm just going to tell you. It's not an exception. You just use the quoting form of ida, which is normally, what's that? 일하고 하다. 일하고 하다. Like 저는 빌리라고 해요. My name is Billy. 라. Notice how it changes to la. That's the normal way that ida changes in tons of grammar forms, but especially in quoting forms. So you get 일하, 고 하다. Well, that's going to leave you with 일하. Remember the quoting form here? 기 보다는. So with the verb ida, and I should say, that would be 일하기 if it's after a consonant or just 라기 after a vowel. So 일하기보다는, that's the end. It's not really an exception though, is it? Because you already knew this from here. Well, if you never learned quoting forms, then sure, it's an exception. But you'll see this is not an exception. This happens everywhere. Fun fact. This la appears in a lot of conjugations. This is an advanced note, okay? If you're beginner, ignore it. Well, you can do whatever you want, but it's an advanced note. This la appears in several conjugations of the verb ida. This is one. Another one would be like the sol form, which you might see iosol or ilasol. The common misconception is that la is an exception. In reality, la was the original conjugation and all is the exception. But that's why you'll see both of them used. So you can get like 일하고. You might think that's an exception, but that's the actual original way that ida would have been conjugated. And then the other newer form, like iosol or yosol, that's the alternate version which actually got popular, and you'll see both of them. So yeah, just fun little fact. It's not really like the like a weird alternate version. It's the original version. It just got replaced. Kind of like Hydrox. I think it's called Hydrox. Is the original Oreo? I don't even remember the name. Oreo was actually a copycat of I think it was Hydrox or something. They're like the cookies. They look like the budget ones that you see at like the bottom shelf in Walmart. And it's like, what is this? They're copying Oreo. Well, actually it was the Oreo copied them, but they weren't as popular. You can still buy them though. Anyway, it's like one of those things. Ida is the Hydrox cookies. Is it called Hydrox? Now I have to look it up. The name is just so terrible. It sounds like a cleaning product. Yeah, it is Hydrox. Okay. Yeah. So Ida is the Hydrox and the Eol is the Oreo. Okay. So back to the lesson. So you can see that 일하기보다는 is not really an exception. It's just the regular workings of this form. Cool, huh? And again, so literally what this form is more than saying that someone or something does something, or maybe past tense, did something, anything like that. So more than saying whatever quote you want to say. So more than saying that, let me give you an example. More than saying that I like coffee, it's really just I like how it smells. More than saying I like coffee, I'm just saying that I like how it smells. I just like how it smells. More than saying I like coffee, I just like how it smells. Okay, so this is how you get the translation of rather. Let me clear this board though. So literally we have more than saying, right? And you might actually want to translate it as more than saying in your head, because that can help. But a better translation will often be rather, as in, rather than, could be rather than saying, or just rather than I like coffee, I just like the smell, right? That can work too. You don't have to say saying in the sentence, but you could. Rather than saying I like coffee, I just like the smell. Okay, that could work too. There are going to be several ways you can translate it, but let me give you another one. Okay, this is a longer one, but this one sounds really natural. It's not that I like coffee, but rather it's just I like how it smells. So this whole thing, this whole translation can come from this one grammar form, literally meaning more than just saying, more than saying something, right? It's not that something, it's not that quote, but rather it's just anything you say after the quote. So, let's see. Oh, and then one more translation that you might see. You might also see it's more of, I like how it smells, not that I like coffee. It's more that I like how coffee smells than I like coffee itself. Something like that could also work. They're all the same. You can translate it any way you want. Just write these down so you can have a bank of possible ways to translate it when it doesn't sound natural in English. But always know the literal meaning never changes. It's always more than saying. Rather comes from our attempts to translate this naturally into English because we use rather a lot for comparisons. We also just say it's rather cold today. We're not really making some big comparison. We're just saying like relatively to norm, relatively to the normal temperature, it's quite cold. We just say quite, very, rather. You might say, I would rather do something, right? Well, in Korean, this word also happens to fit well for the grammar form 보다. So this will also be a good way to translate it. But here are some other ones you'll see. My favorite is this one. It's not that, but rather it's just. Now, the Korean won't have the word just, or it could, might or might not have the word 그냥. Sorry, let me just write this really here. It might or might not have the word 그냥 in the sentence, but you can add it in the English translation. It still conveys the same feeling. Okay, so this form, let's look at everything again. This form, again, shows that whatever comes after the form, 다기보다는, is a better description of something or someone, rather than what comes before. So again, this form means let's take an example. Whatever it is that you have before, let's say it's A. 다기보다는, and then you have followed by B. So you have A as your first part of your sentence that's attached to 다기보다는, and then you follow it with B. This means that B is a better description of something than A. So rather than say A, B, because A wouldn't be the best way to describe that, or that person, anything, that noun. A wouldn't be the best way to describe it. So more than saying A, B would be a better way to describe this. That's what this form means. So keep that in mind. Literally again, rather than or more than, so rather than say A, B. So rather than say that I like coffee, I just like the smell. Like that. Let me make sure I've gotten everything. Okay. And then one more quick note. I mentioned the 는 can be optional. Most of the time, though, you'll see it added. Like 99% of the time, it's there, but you don't have to use it. It's not going to sound awkward if you don't add it. It's just more common that it is added, but it's not required because, as you know, it's just the topic marker. Okay, that's everything you need to know about this form. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again. No, I'm just joking. We have a lot of sentences to go over, but that's all there is to know about how this works. Okay, I'm going to write up the first sentence, and then I want to see if you can translate it. So let me write up the first sentence we have here, and then do your best job to see if you can translate this accurately. How are we on time? Oh, I'm actually not too bad on time. Okay, let's do an example with our friend Charsu. Okay, I want you to try to translate this sentence. Try it on your own before I just tell you what the answer is. Again, since this has 라기보다는, you can know that this is the verb 이다, as we discussed. 철수는 친구라기보다는 라이벌에 가까워요. 철수는 친구라기보다는 라이벌에 가까워요. Bonnie says, I think in German you can always go with her. Is that the word for rather? Her. Her. I'm sure that's not how you. Is that how you pronounce it? Mera Mimi says the nun there, is it for emphasizing the comparison or am I wrong? Yes, sure. You can think of it as serving to further emphasize the comparison, but the marker itself doesn't really do that. The marker itself simply sets it aside and says, hey, we're talking about it. So it kind of places more importance on it, like, hey, more than that. So in that way, yes, it emphasizes it. But grammatically, you can do without it. Either is fine, with or without. I recommend using it though, just because most people use it. And it's always good to speak the way that most people speak. So you sound more natural the more you follow how everyone else speaks. Paul Chung has a good sentence. 빌리는 선생님이라기보다는 그냥 동네 삼촌 같아요. More than just being a teacher, it's not Billy's a teacher. He's more rather like a neighborhood, like a friendly neighborhood guy. Nice. Many of you have gotten the translation for this sentence. I'm just reading some of these. Okay. Bonfire of Dreams says, I just came here to thank Billy and his team. My team is my members here in YouTube. I don't have a team outside. It's just me. Okay, most of you got the correct translation. A few are close, so let's go over it. 철수는, so 철수, our friend 철수. 친구라기보다는, so 친구, a friend. 라기, so 이다, the verb 이다. 라기보다는, so more than saying that 철수 is a friend, literally is what we get. Just by knowing that, you can really break apart the whole sentence now. So more than saying that 철수 is a friend, 라이벌, so rival, like someone you're competing with, you know, rival, 라이벌에 가까워요, so close to a rival. So he's closer to a rival than a friend. Literally though, if we just translate this literally, we'll actually get like 99% there. More than saying that Charsu is a friend, he's close to a rival. So how would we translate this more naturally now? How we would say something in English? Something like, Charsu is more of a rival than a friend. Notice how we didn't even add rather. You don't have to. But you could. Rather than saying Charsu is a friend, he's closer to a rival. Now, I just translated that not as close to a rival, but I said closer, right? How could I do that? There is no more close word in this sentence, right? There is. It's right here. Whenever you use 보다, the part of the sentence that comes after naturally by default means more than, right? If I say, 저는 철수보다 키가 커요. So literally, as for me, than 철수, I am tall. But 보다 is kind of like more than. So I am more tall than 철수 is what you get. So instead of translating this as for 철수, more than saying he's a friend, he is close to a rival. No, this actually means he is closer to a rival because of this 보다, which is already setting up the comparison of more than. Now, it is more than by default unless you specify something else. Like you can have less than if we were to add in the adverb 덜. 덜 means less. So you could say 덜 whatever, he's less something than something. But if you don't specify, 보다 by default means more than. So he's more of a rival. So rather than a friend, he's more of a rival, I guess is what you could say. Rather than saying 철수's a friend, or rather than say 철수's a friend, he's more of a rival. Or he's closer to a rival. Panamanian Harris. I couldn't read your name. It really is Panamanian Harris. Thank you. Very nice. I got our first donation today from Panamanian Harris. It's a long name. Panamanian Harris. That can't be your real first name. Thank you. 5 dabs. Thank you to Panamanian Harris for the donation. Okay. Yana, tu vas y arriver, ça c'est fait. Bon courage. Oh, merci. I think. I'm just reading a couple comments. Okay, so let's go on to our next sentence. Again, if you want more sentences than we're going over today, which I think today we have 8. If you want another 8, check out the worksheet on my Patreon. It's already uploaded right now. You can see it while you're doing this lesson if you want some extra practice. Oops, why did I? That really rude. Okay, I'm going to write it over here because I ran out of space. 그건 실수라기보다는 Okay. 그건, so that thing, 실수, a mistake. 그건 실수라기보다는, so more than saying that's a mistake, 습관, a habit. 습관인 것 같아요. I think it's more of a habit than a mistake. I think it's just more of a habit than it was a mistake. Or, rather than say it's a mistake, I think it's more of a habit. So someone might say, oh, that person made a bad mistake. You can say, nah, I think it's just their habit. They're just used to doing that. Kind of like that. That's what a 습관 is, like a custom or a habit. Something that you frequently do. So I think it's just, that's just their habit. It's not really a mistake. It was just they're used to doing things that way. 그건 실수라기보다는 습관인 것 같아요. So I think it's more of a habit rather than a mistake. Okay, let's do the next sentence. That one's kind of boring. I wanted to show you another example where you can use it with a different ending. So you don't think you have to use it with like 가까워요 for every sentence or something like that. Okay, next sentence. Oh yeah, this is the original example that I was giving you. I think I should probably replace all of my markers. again. Okay. 커피를 좋아한다기보다는 커피 향을 좋아해요. 커피를 좋아한다기보다는 커피 향을 좋아해요. So, more than say that I like coffee. So now we're getting back to that original example I gave you. So more than saying that I like coffee, rather, 커피 향. 향 is a smell, a fragrance. Now, 향 is not a bad smell. That would be 냄새. 냄새 would be like just any sort of smell. 향 is typically a good smell, like a nice, like a fragrance, or just the way something smells in a good way, typically. 커피 향을 좋아해요. I like the smell of coffee. 커피 향. So, it's more just that I like the smell of coffee than coffee. Or more literally, I guess you could get, it's not that I like coffee, but rather I like how it smells. Or even more literally, more than saying that I like coffee, I like the smell of coffee. And if you translate it literally, at least you'll understand what it means in your head. Though it won't be the most natural English translation. But that's what it means. 커피를 좋아한다기보다는 커피 향을 좋아해요. So more than saying that, I like coffee, it's just I like the smell of coffee. That sort of meaning. Okay, let me check the chat for another second. Un plus on déconcentre Billy à parler français. Hihi. Yeah. Sure. Aroma. Yeah, that's a good word. Nathan Hipple said aroma. It could be aroma. Yeah. 향 could be translated as an aroma. So you typically wouldn't say aroma for something bad. I mean, you could jokingly, but it would be typically something that's like nice and fragrant and light. It's like a nice 향. If it's like really strong smell, you would have different word. Maybe 냄새 would be another common one. Yeah, 1213-1415-1617-88990B. Yulia, your name is longer than the form though. Yeah, and when you get a really long verb, I'm trying to think what would be a really long verb you can have. I guess you can do any verb that's like Sino-Korean with hada couldn't be quite long. Pure Korean, like regular verbs like 가르치다 even are a little longer. But yeah, 좋아한다기보다는, so you get a really long thing. And again, there are no spaces. But native Koreans are so tempted to put a space right here. Oops, sorry, not right here. Here. You'll see so many spaces online because it just looks so ridiculous. But I can guarantee you this is not spaced. There are no spaces with it. That's because the form that it originally comes from. And 보다 is always attached without a space, no matter how it's used. I mean, if it's the grammar form 보다, not the verb 보다, but the grammar form 보다 is always attached without a space. So there can never be a space here since we know it came from the verb, from the grammar form 보다. Okay. Let's do our next sentence. Oh, this one's a little longer. Okay. This will barely fit. Okay, I want you to try to translate. You try to translate this one. Okay. 운동을 좋아해서라기보다는, again, this is one word. It's not spaced, I promise. 운동을 좋아해서라기보다는 건강을 위해서 하고 있어요. How would you translate this one? I think this might be the longest one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's another one that's 9 also. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, there's one more that's this long that we have in the examples. But they could get quite long. Let's see how everyone's going to translate this. It's not that I like exercising. It's that I'm doing it for my health. You could translate it that way, but that's missing part of the sentence. I think that's a little too simplified. Luna, you're getting close. Luna's very good. That might be good, perfectly fine translation right there. Bookshelf. I mean, booksketball. Sorry, bookshelf. You're now bookshelf. Ocean discovery. Sure. Kind of close. Missing a little bit on this part. Hanmi, very good. Poragul, nice. Just reading a few years. Okay, time's up. 운동, exercise. 좋아하다, to like. But here we have 좋아해서. What is this 서 form? Well, that's the regular 서 form because. But wait, Billy. Wait. Isn't there supposed to be plain form? A quoting form before we use this 다기보다는 form? There is. Right here. 라기. This is again 이라기, which comes from 이다. And when you get the 이다 quoting form, you get 이라고. So 라기보다는, this is the regular 이다. So it is. So more than saying it is, because is what you get. So in this case, you might think this has to be like 좋아한다기보다는, but no, it's not saying that. It is saying it is because I like exercise. So literally again, more than saying it's because I like exercise. So more than just because I like exercise, it's just that, or rather it's that 건강을 위해서 하고 있어요. I'm doing it, 하고 있어요. 위해서, for 건강, health. 건강을 위해서 하고 있어요. So I'm doing it for my health rather than because I like it. So I'm exercising. Rather than because I like it, I'm doing it for my health. That's what it means. 운동을 좋아해서라기보다는 건강을 위해서 하고 있어요. So, I'm doing it more for my health rather than just because I like exercise. So rather than just liking exercise, so more than saying it's because I like it, I'm just doing exercise for my health. Okay. So you can see these long examples, but I'll give you another long example like this in a second that doesn't even have to use this trick, that just uses a regular verb in this form as is. But because you know what this form means, this shouldn't be hard to grasp any more than the original form because you know how the form works. So when you see a really long thing like this, you should be like, oh, of course, it's just the 이다 verb. Okay. Let's do an example with a 강아지. Okay, I have to go on to the next line because I'm out of space, but there is no space here normally. Okay. 그 강아지는, that dog, 사람을 싫어한다. That dog hates people or doesn't like people. 싫어한다기보다는, so more than saying the dog doesn't like people, rather though, 무서워해요, 무서워하다, to be afraid of. So the dog, rather than saying that dog doesn't like people, it's afraid of them. Rather, the dog is just afraid of people. Notice how I added in the word just. There is no just in the sentence, but you could add in 그냥 무서워해요. And you'll see a lot of Korean learners and Korean natives add in 그냥 here anyway because it has that feeling of like, no, it's not that. Rather, it's just this. So you can add in 그냥 if you want, but you don't have to. It has the same meaning whether you add it or not. I don't add it, but you'll see a lot of sentences that add it too. 그 강아지는 사람을 Oh, I wrote likes people. I'll fix that little typo. It's not that the dog dislikes people, but rather it's afraid of them. So it's not like the dog dislikes people. Rather, it's afraid of them. Like that. Okay. A few more sentences to go. Now, I said that you can use this form in any tense with any verb. So let me show you what that would look like. I should write this neater. Okay. Yeah, let's do that. Should we write the quote down here so it's easier? Okay, I needed this whole line. I needed all this space. Ice Play says we keep using just instead of rather. It doesn't bother me because, like I said, rather is how we translate it or how we could translate it in English, but it doesn't need to be there because we know the literal meaning is just more than saying. So more than saying, and however you want to translate that is fine as long as you get that. Rather can work, but a lot of sentences I don't even use rather because rather can sound a little bit fancy, right? In English, it's rather nice day today. I would rather do this. You know, we don't use that as much as you think in English. Instead of saying I'd rather go do this, we just say I'll go here instead. We use instead a lot. You might say instead of it's rather cold, you'd say, oh, it's pretty cold, or it's really cold, right? And instead of saying rather than a friend, he's more of a rival, you'd just say I'd say not a friend, but he's more like a rival. We just say it like that. So rather is a bit of a fancy word in English. It's not bad, but it has that slight fancy feeling to it. So you don't need to translate it as rather if you don't want to. Okay. 사랑이었다기보다는 사랑, love, 이다, to be, but past tense, 이었다. 이었다기보다는 사랑이었다기보다는 it's like a tongue twister. 사랑이었다기보다는 집착 is an obsession. So 사랑이었다기보다는 집착이었던 것 같아요. So I think it was more of an obsession than it was love. Or literally, more than saying it was love, I think it was an obsession. More than saying it was love, I think it was an obsession. Okay. It was more of an obsession than love. Better. Or you can say, it's not that it was love, but rather it was an obsession. If you want to use rather, that works too. You have options. Look how long it is this. Look at how long it is. That's totally fine. No spaces. No space for you. Do not space this. Okay, we have 2 more sentences left. Okay. Here's another example that uses 가까워요. Now, you'll see a lot of sentences that use this. You don't have to. It just literally means it's closer to. So it's close to, in this sense though, because 보다, it's closer to a house, 집. Okay. 부모님이 거의 매일 오셔서 제 집이라기보다는 부모님 집에 가까워요. Let's look at the sentence. 부모님, my parents. 거의 매일, almost every day. 거의 is almost. 오시다, to come honorifically. 오셔서. So because my parents come here almost every day, 제 집, my house. 제 집이라기보다는 more than saying it's my house, 부모님 집, my parents' house에 가까워요. It's closer to my parents' house. So because my parents come here almost every day, literally, more than saying it's my house, it's closer to my parents' house. That makes sense? My parents are here every single day, so I mean, even though it's my house, it feels like it's closer to theirs. It really feels like it's their house because they're here almost every day. Because my parents come here almost every day, it's closer to their house than mine. That would be fine to translate it that way too. Yeah, it's more like their house than mine. Very good. 부모님이 거의 매일 오셔서 제 집이라기보다는 부모님 집에 가까워요. Okay, one more sentence, and then we have some advanced notes I want to talk about. I want to briefly mention 차라리 and 오히려, which I'll do that right after this last sentence. For all of those who are hoping for something more advanced than this lesson, I really need new markers now. I don't know. I'm going to put it on the next line. Even though this is connected with this next part here. I'll just do that. Then, okay. I think that's right. That's it. 영화를 보고 싶었다기보다는 집 밖으로 나오고 싶었어요. Take a look at it for a second. That was a second. Okay. 영화, movie. 영화를 보고 싶다. To want to see a movie. 영화를 보고 싶어요. I want to see a movie. 영화를 보고 싶었어요. I wanted to see a movie. So, 보고 싶었다기보다는, so more than saying that I wanted to see a movie, so more than just I wanted to see a movie, 집 밖으로, so outside the house, 나오다, to come out. 나오고 싶었어요. I just wanted to come outside. I just wanted to get out of the house. Literally, to come out from the house. I just wanted to come outside. More than saying I wanted to see a movie, I just wanted to come outside. So more than I wanted to see the movie, I just wanted to go outside. Or it's not that I wanted to see a movie, but rather I just wanted to go outside or come outside. There's a little typo there. Okay. So you're going to see a movie and your friend's like, oh, how come you know, I don't know, maybe the friend's bugging you. Do you want to see this movie or this movie or this movie or this movie? And you really want to see Dune, but they don't have it playing at your theater. So you're like, 영화를 보고 싶었다기보다는 그냥 집 밖으로 나오고 싶었어요. It's not that I really wanted to see a movie. I just wanted to get out of the house for a bit. Like that. More than saying I wanted to go see a movie, more than saying I wanted to see a movie, I just wanted to come outside of the house. Okay. That is our last sentence. And now we have some a little more advanced notes. I always give a few advanced notes during and after every lesson. First of all, though, if you want to learn about the differences between 차라리 and 오히려 and how to use the grammar form 느니 to say I would rather do something, that's a completely different form. For that form, you want to watch my live stream on August 2nd, 2020. That also is about how to say rather, but it's not this form at all. It is not rather than saying for describing something. This form is used, actually, let me give you a really quick comparison. When you use 느니, you are showing that the first part of the sentence, A, is something you do not want. So I do not want to do this. Rather than that, I want to do this, or I'm going to do this, or I would do this, or I will do this. Something in the future tense. So rather than do this thing, I don't want to do it. I'm going to do this. That's what this nini form means. And we talked about that in the live stream in detail. So watch that if you want to learn about that form. This new form today, 다기보다는, we have A. This doesn't mean I don't want to do this thing. This instead means that A is not a good description of something. It means more than A, B would be a better description. So if we want to take everything we learned today and condense it, A is not a very good description. Instead, B, right? So rather than say he's a friend, rather than say I like coffee, rather than say it was love, because that's not a good description of him, or that's not a good description of what happened. So that was a bad description. So rather than that, here's a better description. That's what this form means. It has nothing to do with saying your preference of something you will do, or saying there's something you didn't want to do. You wouldn't say going to see a movie nani unless you didn't want to go see a movie. If you did want to go see a movie, well, you couldn't use it. You could say though, 영화를 보고 싶었다기보다는, more than wanting to see a movie, that doesn't mean you didn't want to see a movie. It's just you're saying more than that though. Like, yeah, I did want to see a movie, but more than just saying I wanted to see a movie, really I wanted to come outside the house. So that's the main difference between these two. Again, they are unrelated. And then really brief, the difference between 차라리 and 오히려. These are words that are not used with this grammar form we learned today, 다기보다는. I mean, you could. Yeah, you could stick them in, but they're not required. They're not a part of the form, and they don't commonly appear with the form, but you can feel free to add them if you want, if it makes sense. 차라리 is used when you want to say that something is preferable. So it means like preferably, rather. Like I would rather do this. Preferably, like my preference is I want to do something. And this isn't used when you think. This is used when you don't want to, when both of the options you have are bad. Oh, I got another donation. Let me check who that is. Deirdre. You wrote your name in Hangul right next to your name in English, and I didn't even read it before. That's how you pronounce it. I thought it was just random letters. Deirdre. Okay, I think I got how to say your name. Deirdre, wow. Thanks for your talent and your time. Thank you. Deirdre. Very, very kind of you. I just realized since Thanksgiving was just this week, now we've got, the only thing that's left is prepare for unlimited Mariah Carey singing All I Want for Christmas Is You and Michael Bublé music all the way until the end of the year. Let me see. I should add some Christmas music on here. Okay. 15 dabs. Thank you, Deirdre. Okay. So, 차라리 is used when both options are bad. You are not saying, oh, rather than go see a movie, which I would love to do, I would rather go to the park, which would also be wonderful. No. 차라리 is used when both options are bad, but you're saying, well, I'd prefer doing this. If I have to do one of those, if I have to go see Cats 3D, well, I'd rather go see, what's another terrible movie? I almost said Sonic, but then Sonic actually was pretty fun. But I remember that movie had a terrible trailer and turned out to be pretty good. What's like a really bad movie that came out recently? I haven't been to the movie theater in a while. I don't know what's like really bad in theaters right now. Anyway, I'd rather go see, I'd rather chew on a box of nails than go watch Cats 3D. Do you want to go watch Cats 3D? No. Do you want to chew on a box of nails? No. But that's preferable. That's what 차라리 is used for. So keep that in mind. 차라리 is used when you don't really want both example. You don't want both options, but you'd rather pick this than pick this. Now, it doesn't have to be something horrible. It could be something you kind of want, but you're not passionate about. You're like, well, I mean, I'd rather go get Chinese food than get the same food we've had every single day for 10 days, right? Do you want to eat Chinese food? Kind of, but none of these are really what you want, but this one's still preferable. Like, yeah, okay. I had Panda Express today for lunch. Really good. I don't care if it's not legit Chinese food. It's pretty good. Okay, 차라리. Both options are bad. 오히려, on the other hand, 오히려 is different. This means rather in the sense that, rather, this is not what you expected. So contrary to what you expected or contrary to what you thought. And this one is used in positive situations when the second option is good. So no. Rather than eat the same food I've eaten every single day for 10 days, I'd much rather have sushi. Like that. It has more of a no. Like a more of a, yeah. You just need to memorize that it's for good options usually. You could use it for a bad option, but it's usually used for a good option. So it's to say, no, I don't want that, but I do want this. Rather, 오히려 is also used by itself when you want to say, no, something's actually good. 오히려 좋아. No. You might have thought that was bad luck, but actually, that's contrary to what you thought, that's actually good. In that sort of sense, actually, like you didn't expect it, but actually, 오히려 좋았어요. 재밌었어요. Like, I was watching the movie and it was so cheesy. 근데 그게 오히려 좋았어요. 오히려 재밌었어요. Because it was bad, that made it good. Unexpectedly, actually, contrary to what I thought, it was good. So you can use it like that. But these words can both mean rather in English. Again, rather has many meanings in English. There's one more word in Korean that means rather. 꽤. Let me verify this spelling because I didn't actually prepare this on my lesson chart today. Don't want to teach anything wrong. Oops. Where'd my keyboard go? Okay, there we go. Oh, of course it is, but yeah, and normally it's like, of course it's right. Of course I spelled it right. But then I'm like, let me check because I can't change it later. Yes, 꽤. 꽤 is like quite. Like it's quite fun, quite good, or rather good, There's actually a bunch of other words too. Oh, there's another one that's not coming to mind right now, but I know it's out there. There's another word that means like rather, like as in comparatively rather. Anyway, if I think of it, I'll tell you it later. Okay. Yeah, Carrie Rich, I love Pan Express. Seriously. Someone said Dune is confusing. Yeah, I didn't know anything because I didn't know anything about Dune. I never read the books. I didn't know any of the characters. I didn't know any of the words. I've seen some of the pictures, from over the years. And I told my dad they're making a Dune movie. He's like, oh, wow, that's amazing. Because I guess he's a fan. I saw it, so I had zero expectations. I actually expected it to be terrible because I had no clue what it was. And it's an old property that I know has already been ripped off by thousands of movies already since it came out back in the 60s or whatever. I really enjoyed it. I was impressed. Now, it might be boring. I think I could see it being boring, but I liked it. So I'll add my recommendation. It was a fun movie. Okay, not fun. Fun's not the way. It was a good movie. It was kind of like, it felt like when I watched Lord of the Rings for the first time for fantasy movies, it kind of felt like that for sci-fi movies. I was like, cool, this is like a new thing. But anyway, you might not like it. You might think it's boring, but I liked it. And that is our lesson today. We learned about 다기보다는, 라기보다는. We learned about how it's used, how it can be translated, four different ways you can translate it, where the form comes from, and we also talked about Panda Express and Dune. That is the whole lesson for today. Thank you for coming. Before we go though, really quick announcements, and I'm going to have a Q&A right now. So if you have any questions, I'll stick around for the next 10 minutes. You can ask me any questions you want, and then we'll close the stream for today. So again, really quick announcements are, if you are a Patreon member, you can get the worksheet for today's live stream on there right now. After this live stream finishes, it'll be up. All of the outlines for every single live stream I've ever done, you can get on Patreon just for $1. Also, if you are a member of the YouTube channel, then check on my channel tonight. You will get to watch this abridged version of the lesson edited there, probably, within 3 or 4 hours from right now. That'll be up on my YouTube channel. Other announcements are, again, just going to plug the Discord channel. It's open 24/7. You can practice Korean there. And finally, the other major announcement is these are now available. Korean Made Simple Workbooks 1, 2, and 3. It is basically, if you have the textbooks already, Korean Made Simple, and the end of every chapter has a practice section. It's usually 2 or 3 pages long at most. This is just more of that. So you get a slightly smaller font so I could fit more, and minimum of like 7 or 8 pages. So it's pretty much like, imagine that the practice in each book went on 10 pages or 12 pages instead of 2 or 3. That's kind of like, if you want to kind of imagine what you're getting. So yeah, like lots of translation, lots of practice with the conjugation, organizing sentences. There's like trivia on stuff that you learn in the chapter just to check if you got it. Yeah, so now it's available for all 3 of the textbooks. Again, I've already said this before, these are completely optional. You do not need these workbooks in order to make your way through the textbooks. The textbooks were written as a complete set already. So these are just if you want extra practice with the stuff that's already in the chapter. Okay, so they are available now. KoreanMadeSimple.com, GoBillyKorean.com. You can also find them on Amazon or Book Depository or anywhere that's a legitimate retailer, but probably not a illegitimate retailer. Those are probably stolen. Okay. Now we're going to have a Q&A, so feel free to ask any questions. It could be about the lesson or about anything in general about Korean. If you don't have time, thank you for sticking around for the lesson. And yeah, see you again next week. So let's see what we got. Unung Park says, I have looked a bit, but I haven't found the table of contents for your workbooks. The workbooks are the exact same as the textbooks table of contents. So it's in the same order. You would go through one chapter in the workbook right alongside the corresponding chapter in the textbook. So if you can find the textbook table of contents, it's the exact same. Caden Reed, I think you came in at the end of the lesson. That was explained in the first 10 minutes of the lesson, or 20 minutes of the lesson. We talked about that. Because 다기보다는 has 보다 inside of it, so they are not the same form. Tanya Hoy, oh nice. I'm on chapter 18 with book 1. The workbook's really helpful. Thank you. One, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6, 1, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 0, B. Yulia says, oh, I need a breath after that. You're the best. I really want to thank you for everything you do and all the great advice you share. Many thanks. Heart. As a teacher myself, nice. I am so confused. How do you find all the time to do that? This is all I do. I spend all my free time, which is really just all my time because I don't really have free time, but I spend all my time writing lessons and making videos and content. I just filmed another video yesterday. I'll be editing it starting tomorrow and Tuesday and Wednesday. If everything goes well, you'll see it this Friday. If not, you'll see it next week. I just filmed a video actually yesterday that's an advertisement for all of my books, since they're now all the workbooks and all the textbooks are now finished. So I filmed an advertisement just yesterday for that I'll post up. It's kind of an advertisement, kind of just like a fun video, but anyway. Let's see. Stars Gem, Kim Jae-hwa says, was 대신 the other comparative you were thinking of? No. 대신 would be a different word that means instead of or even in exchange for is also a common way it gets translated. Keep that in mind. It can be both. But I have a different live stream where I covered that, but that's unrelated to this form. Oh, I got another donation. Who's that? Paul. Hey, Paul. Paul Chung. Is it Chung? Is it Korean? Or is it 정? Because I know it could be another one. 오늘 수업 재밌었습니다. 주변에 한국어 공부하고 싶다고 하면 항상 이 채널을 먼저 추천해요. Thank you. 5 dabs your way. Thank you for your support, Paul. Bora says, is there a form to express not only but also yes? You would use the form 뿐만 아니라. And I do have a live stream about that. But you don't have to find my live stream. You could really, it's kind of a simple form. You could find it on anywhere. Just search 뿐만 아니라, not only that. This has the feeling of not only. There are other ways you can express that, but I like 뿐만 아니라. Because it has like that feeling of not only, like that emphasis kind of feeling to it. 여유가 없다기보다는 빌리쌤이 여유 시간 내내 유튜브 영상을 열심히 찍고 있어요. So more than say that Billy doesn't have any free time, it's that Billy is continually filming YouTube videos. Let's check here. Bonnie says, thank you so much for this lesson. I feel smarter now. That is the intent of every lesson, is to help you feel like you've got it. Now you could teach it. Well, maybe not. Don't do that. But you feel like you could. Like, yeah, I got it. I understand the form. Meramimi says, can we please do a future tense sentence? I have a full live stream about future tense. I recommend checking that out. That would go into a lot more detail because there is no such thing as like just a future tense. There's a lot of future tense in Korean. It really depends what you're trying to say. Can you use 오히려? I already had answered that actually when I just talked about 차라리 and 오히려. I said you could make sentences that use them together, but they're not used together. They're not partners. You won't see them frequently together, but there's no reason you couldn't. It just wouldn't add any sort of extra meaning to it. You would have to use 오히려 completely normally, separate from the form, but you could put it into a sentence that has both in it. It's kind of like if I told you the grammar form want to and the grammar form will. Like, can you use them together in a sentence? Like, yeah, but they're unrelated. But you could. Meramimi, future tense of today's... yeah, I talked about that in the beginning. Since it's a quoting form, you can use quoting form in any tense. So yeah, you can use future tense. But because it's quoting, you're limited in which future tense forms you can use. You'd have to be smart about which future tense form you would want to use, because keep in mind it is a quoting form. So how would you say I will do something? Which form would you pick? You can give it a try with that. And just remember that if it's the 것이다 form, it will be 것이라기보다는 or 거라기보다는 because it's future tense. Our penguin boy. Thank you, our penguin boy. Let me give you 5 dabs. Those are for you, our penguin boy. Now let's read your message. I love you, Billy. Also, can you talk about short track speed skating in Korea? I know nothing about short track speed skating in Korea. I know nothing about sports in Korea. That's not supposed to be a flex. I just don't follow any sports. I know Yu Hyun-jin, I think he's Dodgers, right? Is he Dodgers? Don't kill me. Park Ji-sun, is that the Dodgers? Anyway, I know there are a couple famous Koreans in sports, of course, like Kim Yeon-ah, but Yoona Kim, as we say in American. I don't know anything about short track speed skating. I don't even know anything about speed skating or skating in Korean. So I'm sorry. I'm sure if they're doing well, I'm sure it's good. I'm sure it's popular. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Short track. Okay. Yeah, I've never seen it before. And then you're going to tell me, it's not a sport, it's something else. I'm like, yeah. Okay, someone says, Paul says, The most interesting event of Olympics in Korea. Okay, yeah, I've never seen the Olympics before. Yeah, I've never watched the Olympics before. I've never just ended up never catching it. I've seen like some clips on TV, but someday I'll get myself. I'm just not interested in watching sports on TV, I guess. If I went in person, like I had tickets to go see a game in person, that's different. But on TV, I've never been able to get into them. So I don't know. Maybe someday I'll go. I'll get tickets to the Olympics in the future, and that'll be kind of cool. Otherwise, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Andrew Gwen, I think it's pronounced that way, right? Gwen. I had a friend once with that last name, and that's how they said it was pronounced. How do I start learning Korean? I have a live stream called How to Study Korean, and it has all of that. Or you can search How to Start Learning Korean. I think I have a video about that as well. There are many steps, so I wouldn't be able to go over all of them right now in a quick Q&A. But the number one step is learn Hangul first. Learn the alphabet. From then, there are a lot of other things you can do. But yeah, start with that. Okay, 12131415161788990B. Yulia asks, I will ask again because I really want to know, is that hi or hee? Or is it But where can we buy your books, Billy? There is a link in the description of this video. Or you can go directly to KoreanMadeSimple.com, which just goes to my website, gobillykorean.com, automatically when you type in that address. And they're on the side of the screen. That's like a big post that says, buy books, give me your money. No, it doesn't say that. But that's where you can get them all from my website. That just has links. So you can go buy it from Amazon if you want to get the print book. You can also buy it from any major retailer sells it if you want an ebook version. So yeah, that's where I'd start though, KoreanMadeSimple.com. That's the easiest way to get it. Aki Suzuki, have you considered learning Japanese? Japanese to Korean is closer than English. Yes, I have learned Japanese. I studied Japanese for, I'll say 3 years. I did before I even picked up Korean. So I got to, on a good day, I was intermediate level in how I could speak. It's like I can hold a conversation, and depending what we're talking about, you might think I sound good. But if we got into an actual discussion, you'll be like, this guy don't speak Japanese very well. So yeah, but I did Japanese for a while, and I really enjoyed it. And I still sometimes watch Japanese TV shows, and most of it I can follow along without subtitles because I had studied it for so long at that time. I was also very young when I was studying it, so I had that advantage of getting to learn a lot simply by watching TV shows. It wouldn't really work anymore very well as it did before, but I remember it did work really well at the time. Jordy said, did you bring any interesting sodas back from Korea to showcase, like more kimchi energy drink? This year, no, I apologize. This year I didn't bring any Korean energy drinks or kimchi soda back to the US. This time I actually had, this time I went to Korea was just a 3-week trip, and I only brought 1 suitcase. So I came back with it completely full, but not with energy drinks. I had other people ask me to get them things. Like my mom and my grandma both wanted me to get them a bunch of nice masks from Korea, because in the US, the face masks we have here are not very comfortable. But in Korea, they're very nice and comfortable, high quality. You know, they don't even smudge your makeup if you're wearing makeup. So I brought back a bunch of those, and that filled up my whole suitcase. I didn't really have any space to bring home souvenirs, I guess. It was all just stuff I brought into Korea, bringing back to the US, plus masks and a couple other things. I did bring some snacks, though. I brought on my carry-on, I filled it with a bunch of snacks from the convenience store, but not drinks. Rita says, are the new workbooks not up on Book Depository yet? They might not be. You can check if they don't show up. I think the first workbook is, because that's been out for years, but they should show up soon. I think the last time it took them like a month before they started selling it, and it hasn't really been more than a couple weeks yet, since I just published the book just a week or so ago, so it might not be up there yet. But yeah. Okay, I guess that's enough for today. I don't want to go for too long, but thank you everyone for joining me for this live stream today. Hopefully you learned something, and I will see you again next Sunday. Make sure to vote. I'm going to be putting the vote up on my channel tomorrow, so you can pick which category you want, which lesson you want to learn for the next week. And keep in mind, all of these suggestions have been from members. Today's lesson suggestion was also from a channel member. So if you are a channel member and you have a topic you'd like me to cover, and I haven't already covered it by itself, like I haven't already made a video specifically about that topic, only that topic, feel free to suggest it. If there's a topic that I've taught before, but you felt like it was, like maybe a really old video and you want me to, go back to an older video and teach it in more detail, that's fine too. Leave your requests. Members get priority access for all of the live streams that we do. Thank you for coming, and I will see you again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.